In this video, we're going to have a real discussion about what happens to your credit score after you file bankruptcy. So stay tuned, Bankruptcy Bailout buddies. Welcome, borrowers and debtors, to Bankruptcy Bailout, because debt ruins lives, not bankruptcy. My name is Matt Burkus, Colorado bankruptcy and debt relief attorney, and let's sit back and have a real discussion about what happens to your credit when you file bankruptcy. And let's have a little bit of reality check. Now, a lot of people, when they start thinking about bankruptcy, get narrowly focused and obsessive about their credit. But the reality check is, what's the alternative? Because if you can't pay your bills, if you're not going to be able to pay your debts, then you're going to trash your credit anyway, or your credit's already trashed. Bankruptcy does not make that worse. Okay, I've been doing this, representing people in bankruptcy and other debt relief options going on, 19 years now. Most of the time, by the time people get to me, their credit is already trashed because they're not paying, right? They have the reason you file bankruptcy is an inability to pay. Now, some people are ahead of the game, and I get a handful of clients each year who haven't yet defaulted on their payments to various creditors, but they know the writing is on the wall. And that's really the best time to file bankruptcy. But a lot of people are going to go 6 months, a year, 2 years before they get around to filing bankruptcy. And during that time, they're going to be missing payments on their credits. They're going to accumulate collection accounts. They're going to have repossessions, possibly a foreclosure. That is far worse and will last a lot longer on your credit than filing bankruptcy, ripping the Band-Aid off so you can heal your credit and move on more quickly. So here's the first big myth, right? Yes, bankruptcy is going to be reported on your credit report for 7 to 10 years. But that just means it's on your credit for people to see for that long. It doesn't actually affect your credit score for 7 to 10 years. And the reason for that is that a bankruptcy is a one-time event on your credit. And like all things on these ranking systems, they focus more on what's happening now than what happened in the past. So as your bankruptcy ages, as it gets older on your credit report, it has less and less impact on your credit score. And what we find is it only takes about 1.5 to 3 years for most people to get back to a high credit score, either somewhere in the high 600s or into the low 700s. In current FHA lending guidelines for mortgages allow for a mortgage 2 years after bankruptcy. You can get a car loan literally the day after you file bankruptcy. Now, the terms aren't going to be that great for that car loan. You might have 15% interest rate, but you can get a car loan. So you're not going to have a problem, even with a bankruptcy, with having access to credit. Okay? It's just in that first 6 months or first year after bankruptcy, you're still going to be considered a subprime borrower. But don't let this myth that the bankruptcy is going to trash your credit for 10 years and you can't get a mortgage for 10 years, because that's absolutely false. And then again, let's compare it to the alternative. Because what's the alternative? The alternative is doing nothing and not paying your bills. That's going to linger on for decades, right? Now, you may read somewhere that, this stuff's going to fall off after 7 years. Well, yes and no. Because what happens is that your debts are going to get traded to collection agency. At some point, someone's going to sue you and get a judgment against you. That judgment is going to have a 10-year lifespan. Okay? And I've seen people try this, and they never make it. Okay? I've had people come in finally after 3-4 years of trying to mess around with their debt, trying to do credit rebuilding, but they get sued, they get judgments, they get wage garnishments, and they haven't made any progress. And so realistically, doing nothing is going to keep you with trash credit far longer and keep you from and not allow you to borrow any money for any reason, mortgage or house or mortgage, house, car, whatever, far longer than being proactive, filing bankruptcy as soon as you recognize that you need to do it, wiping out the debt. Because bankruptcy zeroes out what's wrong on your credit report when you file, right? You have a bunch of accounts that are not being paid or late or whatever, and they all get discharged and you get all this debt wiped out. So you effectively have a clean slate going forward. So most people never actually see a drop in their credit score as a result of the bankruptcy. Okay, well, their credit's already pretty trashed, right? They may be in the 500s. It's not going to go lower because of the bankruptcy. And I've had a lot of clients where their credit score actually increases a little bit because of the bankruptcy, because they don't owe a lot of money all of a sudden. So the bankruptcy has its own inherent negative effect, but because you're getting rid of all this other old debt, it all balances out. And then you can rebuild from there. I have another video where I talk about the 3 steps to rebuilding credit after bankruptcy. So I'm not going to rehash that here. The purpose of this video is to sort of set your mind at ease and say, look, bankruptcy is, if your goal is to rebuild your credit and to have credit in the future, and you're struggling with making payments now, bankruptcy is your better option for that goal, because you're going to wipe out your debt, you're going to give yourself a clean slate that's going to allow you to borrow money, and you're going to have no problem getting credit, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road after the bankruptcy. All right, it's not going to be this 10-year thing. So I hope this video has given you some perspective on how to evaluate the credit impact of a bankruptcy on your credit report and on your future lending prospects. My name is Matt Burkus, Colorado Bankruptcy Debt Relief Attorney. I practice, like I said, primarily in Colorado. I offer free phone consultations to residents of Colorado for the purposes of bankruptcy, student loan issues, and back taxes. Best of luck to you.